I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on the Big Eye Sports Podcast on USBN Sports. And always, I'm joined with my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, we got a guy here that we know pretty well. We've known since he was a little kid, and his dad happened to be our basketball coach. And we've seen Matt kind of grow up as that little kid into a great man, and just gone on to do some great things. So it's pretty cool that we get to have Matt, I guess, as an adult.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, so we've done like 48, 47 podcasts, something like that. This is the first and probably the only guest we'll have that I can claim the fame that I've actually babysat.
That's good. That's scary.
And it was a one-time thing. I got fired, and I've never been allowed to babysit ever again.
Well,
So
I can't believe that he asked you to babysit.
Well, I didn't find this out till years later, but I was like number 50 on the list, and the first 49 were not available, so they were desperate. And so all I can tell you is that Matt's scarred for life. So
yeah.
True, very true. Awesome, thanks guys. I really appreciate you having me. This is awesome. Like I was telling you guys before, I watch a lot of these, and it's really cool to kind of keep up with everything in Anderson, and really excited to be a part of this. And a quick congratulations that I heard her in order to Reverend Danny Albers.
Yes.
So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, thank you, man. That was
jack of all trades. Yes.
That was crazy. It was a lot of fun. It was it was a great. I'll be honest. I didn't know what to expect, and it was ended up turning out pretty nice. It was a lot of fun.
I'm waiting for the YouTube videos to pop up.
Yeah, they're
all out there.
So Matt, like we said, we talked a lot of everybody about. We know, you didn't grow up pretty much, I guess, born in Anderson, but you moved in with your dad when your dad came in. Talk a little bit about that whole transition moving when your dad moved here to Anderson, and what that was like once you got into Anderson and growing up.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I don't remember any of this, but just from listening to my dad's podcast with you guys, I think we moved here in 1984. So I was 4 years old. So, don't really remember much of Toledo, being up in that part of Ohio, but came down, lived on Hilltree on this Summit side. So went to Summit through 4th grade. And then we moved when I was in 5th grade. And went to Air for 5th and 6th grade. So it actually turned out to be pretty cool, because I had, a lot of lifelong friends that I still talk to this day, and text with, from, the Matt Rizzos and the Wes Suitors of the world on the east side of town over in Summit, and then kind of coming over to Air. And, I have friends like Danny Collins, who was there for a bit. And I don't know if you guys remember him, moved off to Kansas, but by the time I got to high school, it was really cool, because I had friends that, kind of were on both sides of it, and we all played a lot of sports together. And, so it was a really unique experience being able to kind of be on both sides of the elementaries over there.
Absolutely.
Matt, as you were growing up, you're kind of in a unique position, because as you were growing up, your dad had moved down here. Obviously, your whole family moved down here, and your dad was a teacher at the high school, and for a while was the varsity coach. Do you remember any of that time frame and what that was like?
It's funny. I mean, obviously, we can get into a little bit more about the teaching and everything as I got older into high school. There's definitely some good stories around that. But when he was a coach, at Anderson, I don't remember a ton of it, to be honest with you. I mean, I do. I remember you guys, obviously, and you guys being around. Steve, obviously, you and I have been around with the basketball and coaching me. I was looking through some photos today from when I think I was in 5th grade, and Norwell and those guys were in 6th, and you coached our team. And there's you looked a little under the weather in one of the games that you were coaching us.
Sure, was.
I appreciate you bringing it up, Matt. That's awesome.
I saw the photo today as I was reminiscing through some things.
Just a little tired,
but it was cool. I mean, it was really fun, and to be able to, more than anything, and having my dad be a teacher there, is just all the people that I was able to meet, throughout the years, and kind of still know to this day, or anytime I go back to Cincinnati or to Anderson for that matter. Kind of just having those connections. I have an older brother and sister who are, 6 and 7 years older than I am. So I kind of have a pretty long time frame of people in Anderson that, that I kind of grew up with and still keep in touch with. So it was a unique situation, but it was a lot of fun. And, him being the basketball coach, I suppose, at Anderson was also, really good, because as I grew up playing basketball there, had a lot of access, I guess I would call it, to the gym, and being able to go up there and really be a part of everything. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Well, let's start to get into your playing days. So
Sure.
I know you played basketball, obviously, and then you also played football for your senior year. But let's talk about basketball, because you had a great career at Anderson High School. Not too many guys can say that they played varsity almost 4 years, but you started at least 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior year, and you were on a couple of really good teams. So talk a little bit about your experience, and feel free to talk whatever you want to talk about Frank Brandy, your coach.
Yeah, for sure. I think the two biggest things that I think about going back to those early years is one, my parents, right? My dad was a basketball coach. Around that time, he'd already started at Claremont, and he had started that program. So, between him doing that and being a part of all of that, as well as my mom, who, she's put up with him for 50 years. So, her being able to help me. And so I'm really thankful for both of them, to be quite honest. They were a big part of everything that I did with basketball, from practices to driving me to the west side of town when we were playing, AAU and those type of things. And then Coach Brandy, one of the great things about him is, I've been friends with him for a long time, right? He was friends with my dad and with you guys, well before I even got into high school. So I had a great relationship with him. I remember, even when I was in, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, really trying to prepare me for, playing basketball and coming in. So I was really grateful for him, kind of everything that he did, not just on the court, but also, just in life. He was very helpful for me. I went through some, as you said, some good years, and then some challenging years of really good basketball to some tough basketball. So yeah. I guess thinking back on it, as you said, when I was a freshman, I played mostly reserve, but I played a little bit of varsity, which was a lot of fun. I think I was thinking about it today of some of the guys, Tim Albers, Brent Rosser, some of those guys who I really looked up to as freshmen when I was younger, who I really enjoyed playing with and being able to be a part of that. So that freshman year was great. Sophomore year is when it really got exciting, and I was playing with the Shane Kleins and the Jeff McKays of the world, and of course Adam Norwell, yes. Right? Who the start of the it's part of my era, the start of the Norwell.
Sure. Yeah.
Which the funniest part is now he's the runt of the family of the group. He was always the biggest player, but. So playing on those teams as, when I was a sophomore and starting, those 2 years, that sophomore and junior year were really good. They were a lot of fun. Norwell dominated. Shane Klein was awesome, and
unbelievable.
Really had some good teams, we won a lot of games. Right. And I don't know if we need to skip so quickly forward to my senior year. But when I was a senior, as I'm sure you guys remember, everybody who was on the varsity team had graduated. So I was the only person that had, I think maybe Pat Johns did a little bit, but I was the only person I think that really played in a varsity game.
Right.
So my senior year, I want to say, if I'm thinking about it, I think when I was a junior, I think we were 17-4 maybe. And I think when I was a senior, we were 4-17. So it took a little bit of a turn. But it was fun. It was I played with Kenny Rydell and Pete Corey, I want to say, and JD Collar, I think, was on a team. Like, these guys were all freshmen that were up playing. So it was tough, but it was a lot of lessons learned, and kind of helped me a little bit, just learning how to kind of lead some of these guys, or at least give a little bit of knowledge that I had, not only in basketball, but just going out there. It was a tough pill to swallow, and after 2 really good years, but had a great time the whole time there. And as I said, a lot of thanks to you, Steve, and Coach Bart, and definitely obviously Frank.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. A couple questions though. One is I was asked to ask what word do you remember most that Coach Brandy would say to you or say to the team?
Oh, so the thing that pops into my mind immediately is courage.
Courage. That was in the huddle.
So that was a big one for me, at least, unless you're thinking of something else. But courage was one for me, because that was obviously in remembrance and kind of dedicated to Rich Lohheide. And I actually, funny enough, as I said, preparing for this call today, I was looking through some old pictures, and I found a picture of Frank, my dad, and Rich on vacation somewhere stretching to play
Really?
tennis. And it's a good picture. So
yeah, you should have brought that and showed us.
The other one, I mean, I don't know, could be pass the ball. That's the other one, but
pass or patience, maybe.
Patience was a little bit around there.
I was told to ask you that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of the big games, because I can remember some of the games that you were just absolutely on fire. Like a McNick game or the Glen Estee game. I remember at Glen Estee you were persuaded a little bit from the student section from Glen Estee, which made you want to score even more.
It was I'm actually glad I looked through some of these pictures and some things I had, because some of them I gotta think about. But yeah, I was never one to shy away from the other fans or the other team. I remember one McNick game, I believe we were at McNick, and I'm fairly certain we won the game, but I think I was at the free throw line and I was kind of trying to pump everybody up to talk some shit to me. I missed the free throws, but luckily I think Craig Sanders went down and missed a game-winning three. So we won the game, but I think my dad,
the baseline, yes.
My dad afterwards said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Bring it on." I said, "Alright." But it was funny. When I in my sophomore and junior year, Norwell, Shane Klein, those guys were the studs, and I found my way in and had some good games and did pretty well. But when I was a senior, quite frankly, Kenny Rydell, very good, and some of these guys, but I was, that was time that I was like, all right, I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna try to score. So Glen Estee was a really big game. I think I scored about 30 something, but I'm pretty sure most of them were in the first half. But that gave us a comfortable enough lead. But yeah, had some big games. And like I said, I think then it was just trying to, win as many games as we could and do as well as I could. And not that I didn't trust the other guys, but I just trusted myself a whole lot more to score.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were part of probably one of the greatest upsets of being an underdog your senior year, when, like you said, you guys have a very good record and you were playing at West High, and they had all seniors and they were ranked, and you guys were struggling to score, and you guys went over there with you and a bunch of freshmen and upset them.
Yeah, I think I do remember that, because I think the second time we played them, I think we played them at home, and I think they killed us.
Yes,
but I'm pretty sure we won because they had to forfeit. I think they had to forfeit this season.
You're right.
Eligible players. So we're 2-0 against those guys. No, but I do remember that. I went over. I think I played pretty well, and Kenny played pretty well, and the guys that we had on our team, Eric Harshbarger was on the team then, and I think more than anything, looking back on those days, I think Coach Brandy really prepared everybody pretty well of like what we were up against or what we were going to do. And then it was just a matter of going out, and if I wasn't going to be able to score, then somebody had to step up or do something. Yeah. I remember clear as day talking about like game planning and stuff with Coach Brandy. I think we played it was at the Shoemaker Center, but we played against Woodward, I want to say, in the playoffs or something like that. And we didn't move for like 8 minutes. We just stood there. We're like, we're not going to try to score, and they're not going to try to score. So we stalled. So it was always entertaining to play. But yeah, West High, we went out and played hard, and Coach always put us in the right position to at least compete and try to sneak one in.
Well, you were on, obviously those two good teams your sophomore, junior, which obviously I think really set the trend for years to come, because Frank had some really good teams as well after that, and I think you were part of what Frank was trying to do, and the playing hard and playing together and playing tough, which I think spoke volumes.
Yeah, he, like I said, I think that he had some really good teams after. I think it was really just that 1 year. I mean, I think we had Anderson, really turned around within a couple of years of basketball, at least in my opinion. Obviously, I think football was always the big powerhouse within Anderson, and really where a lot of people wanted to play and do. But basketball very much kind of turned around, and we got good. And I think a lot of that's to Coach Brandy and having him. Really get people in the right spot, and then one small blip, and that was more just timing of years.
That's right. All right, so let's move on. Danny, when'd you get here?
I was gonna say, let me talk here.
What do you got?
So, hey, Matt, here's what I did. I put on there, I said, you go ahead and talk a little bit about the basketball because you were with him and know him. I didn't know he's going to add 7 questions to the question that he had on there. So.
I thought that was scripted. I thought that was
yeah. Well, we're scripted, but he took over.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, so let's talk about football for your senior year and what made you decide to play. And then, Danny could talk more about this because, he's more into the football as far as how well you did and how you adapted it. And you basically never came off the field.
Yeah. I think, I played football when I was, I think I was like, 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe my freshman year I played. And it was really my sophomore and junior year, I just stopped playing. So I was like, basketball was where it was at. That's where I thought I was going to be, best at and do well. But then my senior year, and I'm not like, obviously the team that we were going to have as a seniors that played a part where I said, okay, this is going to be a tough basketball year. So all my friends, all my buddies who I'm still friends with to this day, they all played football. Nobody played basketball. They didn't play the whole time. So I wanted to play football. I was like, look, I'm a good enough athlete. I can play football. I have before. So just kind of not reached out, but, talked with Coach Suriano and today, I'm a senior. Like I know these guys have been playing for 4 or 5 years. There's my son just popped in the picture.
Nice.
So I joined, I went out and I played, and it turned out I was a pretty decent receiver and could catch the ball. And, but we had, big 2'8" Joe Sherrill was the, who, was a great running back, played at OU. So most plays went to him. And then, with Von Lardy throwing the ball, but it was a great time. It was a lot of fun. And I want to say about halfway through the year, I think Coach Villardo was the one who we'd had someone, I don't know who was doing punt returns, but someone dropped a couple and fumbled a few, and someone said, put Sinko back there. He could probably catch it. So I went back and did a couple punt returns. My one claim to fame is the Turpin game that we smoked them, but we were at a 55-yard punt return. So that was pretty excited about that. But football was a lot of fun. And like I said, I did okay at it, and it was, a lot of, it was fun playing with all my buddies and guys who I kind of had not, who I watched from the stands for, the last couple of years.
Well, talk about that experience, though. I mean, not only, Frank Brandy obviously is in a Hall of Fame, and then you get another one with Vince Soriano. And I mean, like, what was that like with you, like getting that experience? Because, I'm sure I got to coach with him one year, knew how he was.
Yeah.
But was that like just when you were in there, it was like, oh my goodness, that's what these guys were talking about?
Yeah, so it was intense. I mean, Coach Suriano obviously is a legend, right? He's, he changed that program around and brought it to where it is. My biggest thing that I remember, I don't know if you ever listened to me. I said it to him. I said it out loud, but I don't think he ever listened. But I said, everybody in the world knows that the first play is going to go to the right to Joe Sherrill. I said, why don't we do a play action pass and throw one deep down to me down the left field side? Never happened. But I look, I'm onto something here. Everybody knows that Joe's going to get the ball. But I mean, it was night and day from even what the program is now. Thinking about the meetings and the workouts and in the old garage there. I know now there's a whole facility and a whole new wing that I don't think I've seen before. But it was legitimate sports and like a collegiate type atmosphere for what Coach Suriano was doing. So I was just happy to be a part of it. I didn't really complain much. I didn't really say a whole lot. I was just happy to be out there and try to score a couple touchdowns here and there. Did you have any like, man, I wish I would have played, sophomore, junior? Did any of that come in at all? Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but not really, to be quite honest, because I always kind of looked at it like I had the best of everything. Like I went in and didn't kind of have to go through a lot of the grunt work. I just showed up and started. And Rizzo, my boy Rizzo, he got hurt. He was kind of probably one of the better receivers on the team. He got hurt through part of the season, so then I was able to jump in a little more. So I didn't really have to go through all the all the years of being a sophomore on the team and not really playing and doing that kind of stuff. So I was good by it. But yeah, I had a great time. I thought it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, that I do remember that too, when you coming out and just wasn't real sure. And then honestly, you had a really, really good senior year, and it was kind of cool to see. Yep. And just
remembering you when you were little and seeing all that stuff. It was
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
cool. But let's get into after high school. Let's talk about that, like the recruiting process. I mean, was it more towards basketball? Did you get any looks for football? What was your thought process and what was happening during that time?
Yeah, so oddly enough, I didn't really think about football at all. Like for the most part, like that had never crossed my mind. It was always basketball. It was always that had always been the goal. That I really hadn't thought about anything else. So I remember, being in high school and being a senior, and back in the day, obviously of VHS and videotapes of splicing up highlight tapes from basketball. It's been study hall with my dad or whatever it might be, and making these tapes that I was sending out to different colleges. And then football kind of crept in a little bit here. I think Mount St. Joe's was looking for, possibly basketball and football. So a couple small things around Cincinnati. So I think I ended up making like a couple small tapes that had like some football stuff in it, but it was mostly just basketball. I mean, that's what I really wanted to do. So I ended up going to a Division II school in West Virginia, in Wheeling, West Virginia, called Wheeling Jesuit University. Played there for a little bit, had a great time, and it was interesting. It was fun. And the tough part about that, as you guys know, I mean, played there for close to a year, half a year, and then ended up coming back to Claremont for a little bit, and then ended up transferring to Ohio State. But Wheeling was really small. It was like a third of the size of Anderson High School, and so that was a big adjustment to go from just a big school to a very small school. But I would say the recruiting process, from what I can think about it was more me and my dad. Like, we were sending out tapes and letters to people, other than, some of the smaller like D3 schools or things like that within Cincinnati. I wasn't quite good enough or tall enough to play at a Division I school, but I was kind of had my sights set on some kind of Division II somewhere, and wound up at Wheeling.
Yeah, did you get the opportunity? You said you went to UC Claremont. Did you play at UC Claremont, and did you play for your dad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm pretty sure my first game that I played there, at least that I can remember, was at Sinclair, where
yes,
where we have a legend of Sinclair here on the line as well. No, I did. I came back. I played at Wheeling for the first half of the year, and then I knew I was going to go to Ohio State my sophomore year. And my dad said, "Well, why don't you just come back and play for Claremont and play for me for half of the year?" And so that was fun. I mean, that was, a dream come true to play for him. And he's been, a mentor, best friend, from the get-go, from, when he started Claremont. I mean, those are my fondest memories of being younger, is when he started at Claremont, of going to all those games, from, playing at Glen Estee to the YMCAs to all over the place. Being a part of all that was really fun. And then, of course, now, seeing to where it's come today with the Cougar Dome, and Steve, you leading the team. I mean, it's awesome to see. I'm a big fan of what he's done there, and then the legacy that he's carried. And the same thing with you guys, Steve, that you're, kind of continuing it on. It's awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. And, just to tack on to that, I mean, obviously, Danny and I feel the same way about your dad, and all these broadcasts, there's tons of people that mention your dad all the time, and just how legendary he is, and what he's meant to everybody, all these years, both in sports and in the classroom and everything. But before we go forward, I do need to bring this up. Speaking of your dad,
I'm afraid what you're going to say. I don't know. All right, what do you got?
No, so here you go, Danny. Matt's senior year, okay, and you know how you got to do the scheduling and make sure you go to the right classes and so you can graduate and everything. All right, so tell me who else gets this type of second semester for the spring for your senior year. Here's his class schedule. All right, he had psychology. Who was the teacher, Danny?
We know who that is, Mr.
Phil Sinkovich.
Phil Sinkovich.
He had history. Who was the teacher?
Was it Grooms or Stowe?
Phil Sinkovich.
He did history too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's sociology. Who's the teacher?
That's Sinkovich again.
Phil Sinkovich.
Right on to something.
And then there was some other business class or something with Sandra Coleman.
Steve, I had 7 classes my senior year. Actual classes. 3 of them were with my dad, 1 with Miss Coleman, and then I had 3 study halls. where I was my dad's aide, where I was his student aide.
How about that schedule?
So it's funny. I had him for psychology, sociology, American government, and then I had English with Mrs. Coleman, and then I was his aide. I used to go home and cut the grass and get all that stuff done during my study hall time. So that was it was a good senior year. It was that was not that hard. I passed.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. It's good to know people. It's really good. Well, Matt, let's get you caught up for the people that haven't been in touch with you in a while, and what you're doing and where you're living, and talk about your kids and everything like that, so everybody can know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So I, as I mentioned before, I ended up at Ohio State and moved, shortly after graduation back in 2002, 2003. Moved to Chicago, and I've been here in Chicago since. Have two wonderful kids, one who has just popped in a second ago. My son Griffin is almost 10 in a couple months, and he's, love him to death. He's really into sports. He's a much better baseball player. That's his main go-to now. And then I have a daughter who just turned 8, who her name's Harper. And they just started school here in the last couple of days, and she starts her first basketball clinic next week. So
there you go.
They're great. It's awesome. The school that they go to, Old St. Mary's here in Chicago, it's a great school. I've kind of helped out a lot. I've coached a couple teams there, which is has been entertaining. I think, Steve, I've talked to you a little bit about the start of my young coaching career, and it's turns
How
out
many teams have you gotten yet?
Way more than you should at a Catholic school as an 8th grade coach. But it's funny. I complain about a lot of things and whatever games to my mom or dad, and they just laugh, and they're just like, this is the same way you were in high school, and this is the same way your dad is. Like, what are you expecting out of this? I said, well, that makes sense. So yeah, so I've been in here in Chicago for a while, and it's great, and the kids are doing awesome, and looking forward to them getting a little bit older. And my son's really starting to pick up in a lot of like the travel stuff, a lot of travel baseball and basketball and that type of stuff. So it's great though. It's awesome.
I know your mom's a big Cubs fan. Are you Cubs or White Sox?
So it's White Sox. So I live in Bridgeport, which is where the White Sox play. So I live less than a mile away. So I go to a lot of games with my son and with my daughter, and we become a much bigger White Sox household. But I still have a little bit of love for the Reds, and then the Bengals. The Bengals is where it's really at for me. But hopefully this is the year. So
yeah, before we wrap up the Steve Ellis podcast here,
Babysit the kid, for God's sake.
That's true.
That's true. What we're gonna throw out.
I feel like there's a few things from the babysitting that I remember that I don't think are ready for version 1 of the podcast yet. So
that's right. That's for the R version, not the PG version.
We can do that. We can just let it go.
Yeah.
So, hey, Matt, let's talk about some things that we always try to bring up when we get ready to end our podcast. Is like some of your favorite moments that you had maybe in high school. You said you went off to play in college. Maybe you got something in college, and then if not that, maybe one of your favorite teachers. And you can't use your dad. You cannot say your dad.
That's a tough one. I had that planned. I thought that was given. I would say my favorite teacher. I'll start with that. Obviously, besides my dad, because I had him a lot, but. There was a lot. There was Miss Coleman, obviously was great. I mean, she was just a great teacher, but also really fun to be around. One that sticks in my head for whatever reason from a long time ago. I don't know if you guys remember Mr. Taylor, Jeff Taylor, I believe.
Sure.
He played basketball. I think he played, and so he was one from my younger days. But he was a great teacher, but also a really good basketball player, really good shooter. If I recall. And so I remember him a lot from my younger days. But as a favorite memory, that's a tough one. I've watched a lot of these podcasts, right? I think I was watching old Shaky Jake Andreadis earlier, and it's like, really, it's everything. It's all of Anderson. It's all of, of high school. When I went there, it was 7 through 12. So I remember as a 7th grader, I was in there with, a lot of older kids than I were. And so really being able to kind of have my dad there as a teacher, and when I was in 7th grade, and Steve Rizzo and Jeremy Streck, those type of guys, that are much older, knowing them and being able to hang out with them, it was really cool. So really good experience. One of my favorite stories, which, was like 2 or 3 years old or whatever. And my dad, I'm sitting in the back of class, and my dad comes in and says, all right, we're going to do a mock trial. And he said, we had, this is all my friends, everybody's in this class. And he said, we're going to have a mom submitted a photo of their child for the cutest kid to a Kroger's or something to win $500. And Kroger's would not accept it because it was too pornographic. And he said, and here's the picture. And he had made copies of it and handed it out to everyone in my class.
Oh my God.
Picture of me. And I'm sitting in the back of the class, like, just not even paying attention. And the picture gets back to me, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. I said, you can't believe it. I mean, it had like my name under it. And it was clearly me. And I was like, I think that was like my second to last day of school before like graduation or whatever.
Yeah.
That is great.
So that was a good one. But honestly, I mean, it was everything. It was being being a Redskin, once a Redskin, always a Redskin, having, being a part of that. I don't need to get into that whole thing. We need another half hour for all that.
That's right. Right.
But just everything, from my brother and sister being there as, several years older than I was, and then my dad, and then, one of the things I'm most fond about, obviously, or honestly, is, Steve, you guys, and Danny, you guys, played for my dad, and then, and Frank and that. And now I've kind of become older and have become friends with you guys and have adult relationships, with you guys, which has just been really cool. I keep in touch with Frank a lot and throughout the basketball season and you guys. So it's the memory of everything is really cool. It's an awesome town, awesome high school. And, I need to get back more often. That's for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, that's kind of the thing that we always have on these podcasts is that, the difference, like, Jake, Andreatis, my brother Timmy, a lot younger, but everybody seems to, like you said, get along. We can all go out and have a great time, and it's like it's all one big happy family. It's kind of neat to see. I mean, it's kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's a lot to do with just the atmosphere of Anderson Township, but also things like this. This is awesome that you guys keep doing this and having these these different athletes or different people from in and around Anderson, or the Scott Nelsons of the world from the Turpin side. Yep. Having these things is really cool. I mean, Anderson Township is is a special place in my heart, and definitely love watching these videos and these podcasts that you guys do, because it's always cool to see people on here and what they're up to these days, and quite honestly, just how much Anderson has meant to a lot of people, and still continues to this day.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely a great place, but we really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got busy with those kids, and it was great that you got to be on the first ever Steve Ellis podcast on here on ESPN Sports. So.
Honored. No, hey, I appreciate it, guys. I mean, it's like I said, it was a real honor. And Steve, when you texted me, I was excited. So I've been looking forward to this, and this is awesome, and look forward to watching more.
Well, it was great catching up with you, Matt.
One quick thing though is that your dad. I know your dad watches this a lot, and he always gives me a hard time whenever I try to make fun of him. And I really didn't make fun of him tonight, so I'm sure I'll get a text.
I was waiting for you to say something about him, because he wanted me to comment how you just sat on the end of the bench and ate popcorn.
Oh, here we go.
Since you didn't say anything, I felt bad bringing it up.
That's true. That's the truth.
Hey, but here's the thing. I only did that because I was rebelling against my coach because he wouldn't play me. That was the whole thing. I mean, I had it. I mean, so if I can't help it if the coach doesn't recognize it.
Don't kid yourself, Matt. He was looking at the cheerleaders. Don't kid yourself.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, Reverend. Nothing wrong with that.
The Reverend. He doesn't know how to do that.
Hey, Matt, I'm free for baptisms and funerals if you need me. So just let me know.
Yeah.
You're first on a short list.
Yeah. All right. But Matt, we really appreciate taking the time, and it's great catching up with you. And hopefully, when you come to Cincinnati, we can definitely catch up, and we'll bring your dad, and we'll let your dad really tell the story how good I really was.
Yeah, absolutely. No, awesome, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right,
job,
so
Matt.
go ahead and wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and Matt Sinkovich, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.